everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Deanna and you're watching Orchie. I think this is going to be posted a few days late. However, welcome to September Orchies in Bloom, and we are going to start off with this gorgeous Dendrobium Lindleyi. And this did bloom for me last year, however it bloomed while I was overseas for a few weeks, and so I'm very happy to have it in bloom in person for me this time, and it is so pretty. Now it's got 2 spikes on it this year, and I think it had a few more last year. So I think this is under potential, especially considering it grew at least 5 or 6 new growths this year. And that's probably more to do with my care and culture than anything else. This one was winter rested and has begun growing new growths, so I started watering it and fertilizing it recently. But anyway, it still bloomed, and you can see these blooms are a little bit older. They only last for about a week or so, and these ones are probably on day 5 or so now, so they won't be for this world too much longer. But it's still this very sort of egg yolk like color, and these ones still have that same color but a little bit brighter, kind of like, you know, those organic egg yolks that you can get. Very, very beautiful flowers. Next up are the Epidendrums, which you guys have already seen in my recent video, but I don't think I mentioned their names. This beautiful one is Epidendrum Tiny Valley Mahina, and she is my favorite little epidendrum flower. Absolutely stunning with beautiful yellow orange coloring and little spots on the lip, and this one will bloom for a while yet. You can see the buds developing on the top of both the blooms actually. And this one is Epidendrum Wedding Valley Sakura, also a very pretty one. And sorry, I am losing light at the moment, so it's got a few blooms yet to go. I'm not sure what will happen with this one. It hasn't really started developing the new blooms yet, but hopefully it'll continue to bloom off that spike. Over here we've got 2 new epidendrums. This one we repotted together earlier this year. This is Epidendrum Topaz Special. It's got this bloom spike on it. It's a nice deep purpley pink colour, but very similar to this, which is Wayne's Fuchsia, and I do think I like these blooms a little bit better. However, it's not the most impressive of bloom spikes. You can see these flower spikes aren't as floriferous. However, they are on these keikis, so that's probably why they're not the best blooms. But it's a little bit of a nicer arrangement there. I think both these plants are still sort of developing and still settling in, so maybe they've got a little bit more potential yet in them. However, I don't really need 2 pink epidendrums, so I might give one of these away at some stage. Now, up here we've got some Tolumnias, and we've got some nice blooms here. This is Tolumnia Sniffin, and I got this recently from Fame Orchids, and it's a really pretty deep purple brownie sort of bloom, and I love those spots. Very, very cute. Now up here I've got a nice surprise. Now I showed this one to you last month, and I'm not sure if you remember, but you can check out the video, I'll put a link up. It had these really deformed blooms that didn't have a lip. It just had like 4, I think, petals / sepals, but it started blooming properly, and you can see that these blooms have opened up with a gorgeous white spotted lip. I really love these flowers. However, if you look over here, I've got different flowers. Do you see that? So that is a fully yellow lip. Now it's really interesting because it's coming off another flower spike, and I just wonder if it's coming from a different little plant perhaps. I thought this was one big plant, however it's opened up a completely different color, and I don't think that that's color change. I think that that's just opened up this yellow color. I'm not 100% on that, so I'll keep an eye on those ones. Down here we've got one from the recent Rosella Orchids haul. This is Cattleya Dalsgood one Janelle, and it's won a couple of awards there. But look at these beautiful little blooms. They just started opening up 2 days ago. Just moved this to a little bit of a brighter location just so we can appreciate that little contrast of colours there, because it's really, really pretty. They're quite small flowers, probably 1.5 to 2 inches across. The petals are really big and wide, and they've got like this colouring on the edges, and then it just contrasts with this yellow, and then the lip is bright yellow with a deeper colour at the edges. It's just really pretty. I actually just discovered a couple of new Vanderspikes as I was wandering through here as well. This is Ascocenda Suxumrun Sunlight. I got this one in spike in December last year, and it bloomed for me a few months after that, and it's blooming again, so it's a very prolific bloomer. That'll be its second spike for this year. However, within this 12-month period it'll be its third spike. And over behind it, it is Erides Korak Koki crossed with Ascocenda Bigness, and it's 2 plants put into this basket, and you can see all those beautiful new roots popping out. But back here you'll see full of spikes. I think I saw 3 spikes, 2 on this back plant up there. There's the other one, and 1 back there, if you can see. Over here we've got Phalaenopsis type Dendrobium, which you've seen before. It is Dendrobium White Fairy crossed with Genting Royal, and I'm still not sure what I think of these flowers. They do actually appear a bit more green in real life. They're looking more white in this camera. I don't know, it's just kind of a little bit plain to me, but it just blooms so readily. Like, you can see this is last year's growth, and it bloomed twice from there, and so it's growing this even bigger growth, new blooms. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of these blooms, and it's a plant that does take up a lot of space. So yeah, we'll see what we do with that one. And of course, over in this corner we can't forget Cattleya Bella, because she smells so beautiful every time I walk past here. And this is her last flower spike. So this is Cattleya purpurata crossed with labiata, and it had 3 flower spikes, and it kind of bloomed consecutively with each of those, and this is its last one. Such a pretty flower. Have to work on that arrangement though, I think. And here in the backyard, I missed these blooms. They're on their way out, but this is Dendrobium euryalus, one of the ones left to fend for itself over the last 12 months. I thought I'd show you my jasmine because it's coming into bloom. And oh, should we check out that Epidendrum bloom a bit closer? Yeah, okay, hang on. So here we are, my beautiful no ID yellow Epidendrum. A few little ants on there. And this one bloomed for like 6 months last year, so bloomed for quite a while on that one too. However, it is coming off a cakey, so I don't know if that changes things. Oh my goodness, you guys, I just have this overwhelming smell of jasmine up here. I've got so many jasmine buds waiting to open. Can you see all that? Yeah, it always just happens at the beginning of spring. It smells so wonderful. And here we've got some phals in bloom. This isn't all of them, I've got quite a few more. It's definitely phal season here in Australia, and unfortunately these guys have been a bit neglected over the past few weeks. If you guys follow my community feed, you'll know I've had a few little issues and stressful times lately, and I won't go into too much details, but I'll explain a little bit towards the end of this video. Not seeking any sympathy or anything like that, but just good for you guys to know why I'm not posting as regularly as I usually do. But let's check these guys out. This is lovely Stella. She's a beautiful big phal given to me by my grandma a couple of years ago. It's bloomed several times for me. Big plant and really stiff leaves. It always knocks everything over, but she is absolutely beautiful this year. 6 big gorgeous initial blooms. They are huge. They are about the size of my hand, and they actually grow bigger as they open up. So the back ones opened up first. You can see the front flowers aren't quite as big as the back ones, but it always seems to form this beautiful arrangement for me in that, and it glimmers in the light, and very pretty flower. And here we've got Lorraine in bloom still. She's in full bloom. She was one of the stars of a recent Phalaenopsis beginners video. She's absolutely stunning. Check out these flowers. Love that veining and the contrast in that lip, just absolutely beautiful. Up here we've got a new phal. I've got so many white phals at the moment, but this is one that was given by a couple of friends because I was recently in hospital, so they sent it to my house when I was recovering. Really sweet. Here we've got a no ID mini phal, which is one of my first orchids, but she is absolutely beautiful as well. Light pink colour contrasting with a dark lip and a yellow centre there. All those noises are Frankie in the background. Frankie, what you looking at, honey? Come say hello. Come say hello. Hey? Ah, stretchies. Next door we've got this lovely yellow no ID phal, which was given to me by my mum a couple of years ago when we moved into this house. I've always loved the contrast of that really deep yellow and pink lip. So this year it actually bloomed off a secondary spike, if you can see there. That's the spike from last year, and it didn't bring out a new flower spike this year. It was really surprising actually, because it's got a really good root system. But anyway, it's bloomed off this old spike, which I kind of regret keeping because I think it would have bloomed a lot nicer off a new spike. But anyhow, it's already starting to grow a new leaf for the season, which is a little bit odd as well. But anyway, it's still quite healthy. Now I'm going to have to do another video on this one a little bit later, but this is Cloecia Grayston and it's just beginning to open. Now initially tried to push out 3 flower spikes, but only one of them survived. The other 2 dried up for whatever reason. I'm not sure if they do benefit from a tiny drizzle of water when they're blooming, but anyhow, I didn't water this one at all and it lost 2 spikes, but it's growing this one for me, and you can just see that super frilly lip starting to show, and you won't believe it, but it's starting to have a fragrance already. I can already smell it a little bit from here, and you won't believe it, but it's already beginning to show a fragrance. It's a little bit like cinnamon at the moment, but I think it'll probably change. Fragrances do tend to change a little bit as the flowers open, depending on how the light sort of hits them as well. But at the moment it smells a little bit like cinnamon, quite different from the Violacea. It's more like this sort of sweet cinnamon. But yeah, I can't wait for the full fragrance to start showing on this one. It's going to be quite amazing, I can tell. In the phal room, we've got more phals in bloom. We've got 2 more white phals. This one is one I named White Memory. It was given to me by my friends when my dog Sebastian passed away last year. So it does actually hold a lot of sentimental value, and it's a really pretty display actually. This is Sogo Euclidean. And look, I'm a little bit underwhelmed, but it is its first blooming and it does have the potential for quite a show. You can see that these flowers are quite big in size compared to the other white phals. But yeah, it's just got this nice cute little contrast in the lip. Don't know what I was expecting. I knew it was going to be a white phal, but it kind of just looks similar to my other white phals, to be honest, at this point. So yeah, but it is a very healthy plant, and maybe next year it'll just be a more impressive and bigger show. Down here we have the very first bloom for Phal Allura Santa Claus, and it is a very, very cute bloom, and I do believe, although I have to double check, but I think it does form some more patterning on these petals with a little bit more white, almost forming like these little eyes there, making it look a little bit more like Santa Claus and Santa Claus's beard. But I do find you have to have quite a few flowers, and it's actually the flowers that are more distal or further away from the plant that end up with a little bit more patterning because they've got less dark pigment. So yeah, a lot of that patterning tends to come through a little bit more on the distal flowers. But yeah, this one only has the 1 flower, so nothing much to compare to at the moment. Now I have to show you guys this little strange one. This is Phal Sogo Vivienne, and I've posted her a couple of times on my community page. She is a beautiful plant with these beautiful variegated leaves, but it started spiking quite a few months ago actually, and that was exciting. It's a first spike for this one, but then it started growing leaves. You can see these 3 leaves here, but you can see here now there is a bud developing. There's another bud here, so it is definitely a flower spike, and I do believe Michael McCarthy did say that he has a Dendrobium that does the same thing, and it's definitely a flower spike. So yeah, it must just be something in the breeding that made it do this, but it's a flower spike. It took a very long time to develop, I must say, but I am very excited to see these blooms. Now over here we've got an absolute cutie. It is Phal Ching Shin Smile Kitty, and it is very, very cute. I really like these flowers. You can see a little smile there. However, it is a first spike for this one, and this flower actually opened a bit skew-iff like this one too. You can see it's a little bit curved, hasn't opened out fully, and it sort of opened up this way and then it started reflexing back and really opened up. So I'm hoping that this one does the same thing, because at the moment it just doesn't look like the nicest display. You can see little eyes on this one a bit better. It's a pretty cute little flower. Down here we have got a new plant. I got this around August, and This is Phal Stewartiana. It's a species and it is absolutely beautiful. Look at this little cutie. Don't you just love these spots? How cute are these little freckles on the petals? And it's a little flower and the shape is just divine. Look at that lip. So it goes straight down, it doesn't protrude out, and it just makes with this little star shape. Really, really sweet, really pretty. So I've got another bud developing here. That's very cute for a first show. The great thing about this plant is look at the leaves. It's a beautiful mottled plant. So yeah, that's Phal Stewartiana. I do have this little fuchsia one in bloom still. You've seen it a few times already though, so I won't focus too much on this. I've got a new spike developing here. This is Phal Profile Fragrance, and I'll put a link to a video of when I got this and we repotted it together, and there was a tiny nubbin showing at that stage, and I said that, you know, I thought that was going to be a spike. However, when I repotted it, it was still growing this leaf and it basically stalled that flower spike, so I thought it wasn't going to develop, but it finished growing this leaf and it's actually started to extend this little spike. So that's really exciting. And look, I think that means it's doing well. I think it's happy. It means it is developing its roots, and yeah, it's gonna grow its first spike for me. Over here on this wall we have some real cuties. We'll start over here with this beautiful No ID. Got it quite a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago. It was one of my first orchids, and I got it with a couple of other mini phals that I've shown you. The one with that pink lip that I showed you, that's in my little display area. It's currently blooming off an old spike there, and it's got this new spike with little secondary spike developing here, so it should be quite a show. It's got these really thick waxy flowers that are really, really long lasting. Next up we've got Phal Allura Vesuvius, and it is looking spectacular. I absolutely love these blooms, and you can see the colouring is a little bit similar to that little tropical looking one there, but this has a lot more dark pigment and they form like the dots form little stripes which give it that beautiful contrast. And look at that little lip. Don't you just love the little freckles on it? But this guy is fragrant. So last year it grew 2 spikes for me, but smaller spikes, and I swear the flowers were smaller. It's got a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. It's almost a Bellina fragrance, and it's very strong. It's filled this whole room, and that's all I could smell when I walked in here. But yeah, it's a really beautiful flower. Up here we've got a second flush of blooms from this No ID which I've shown you before. I've named it Buttercup. It's got this really pale yellow creamy background, and I'm yet to repot it. I keep saying I'm going to repot it, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Down here we've got a few little cuties. This one is Phal Allura Victoria's Glory. It's got an old flower spike which it's currently blooming from, and this one here which is yet to open. Quite clustered blooms here, and I did find quite a few mealybugs on the backs of these flowers and in between the little buds here. I have had mealybugs on some of my phals before, and as I said, they've been a tiny bit neglected, so yeah, I've given this one a good spray. Luckily these flowers are really waxy and thick, so they're quite resilient even when I get in there with something sharp and get those little mealybugs out and spray them down with an insecticide. Let's check out these blooms because they're really, really pretty. The colour is a very vivid yellow, and they're also fragrant. They're a little bit grassier than the Vesuvius, but a similar sort of Bellina hint to it. And you can see the shape of this is a little bit more like the species orchids. They're waxier flowers, they're a little bit smaller, however they still bloom with the other phals. They're not summer bloomers, so they are still quite complex in their hybridization. It is well into spring here in Brisbane, and it's quite warm, and even though I'm seeing lots of new growths and lots of action within all my grow spaces, there are quite a few pests revealing themselves now. So I'm dealing with a little bit of scale and the mealybugs, and a few spider mites outside have started to appear as well, unfortunately, as well as being a little bit neglected. The warm temperatures have brought in a few pests, and I'll have to manage them pretty soon. Next to Victoria's Glory, we have got one of my grandma's phals. It's got 2 flower spikes, again an old flower spike and a new one, and I actually really like the way that the display is coming along on this one. So it's a beautiful kaleidoscope type pattern, and you can see the contrast of colors and the beautiful lip. This one's not fragrant at all. And last of the phals is this tiny little one. No ID, but I did get it for its little mottled leaves down there. It's a real cutie. It's a tiny little flower, less than an inch across, and I think she's just adorable. Right everyone, last of all I wanted to show you my balcony grow space, which I'm slowly starting to move some orchids here in anticipation of summer. I actually cleaned this deck maybe a month ago. You can see like it was a bit of a shitty effort because I've got like that big dusty corner in the corner there, but I got distracted. It's been a stressful month. I'm not trying to make excuses or anything, but I did have an operation on the 14th of September and I've been under regular observation by medical teams, and I'm going in for another operation tomorrow. And this is not a sympathy vote by any means. I just want you to know that there's stuff going on in my life, as you know, happens for everybody, and the orchids are on the back burner a little bit, and orchid videos are even further down the line in that, you know, because obviously I have to look after the orchids first. And yeah, that just means I haven't been releasing videos by my usual schedule. I usually try and release at least 2 a week, so I really do apologize. I don't want to let anyone down, but I have a lot of other things on my plate at the moment, and that just takes a little bit of focus at the moment. So I will show you what's in bloom out here, but I've noticed over the last couple of weeks that I'm getting some good morning direct light through there, and it is the afternoon now, and you can see I've got a bit of afternoon direct light coming in here, so I'm starting to get more light through this area. And I've moved my species phals out here to start, and I just noticed that I've got a little nubbin this morning. You can see that on my Phalaenopsis, so that's very exciting. It means summer's around the corner, and yeah, the plants really loved it out here last year, so I'm looking forward to using this area as a grow space again this year. So first I'm going to show you guys my Dendrobium little green apples, which is a rebloom for me. And look, she's got 5, 6, 7, 8 flowers this year. She had 3 last year on 1 flower spike, and it's growing amazingly well. So I just want to show you the whole plant at the moment. It's currently working on this cane, and there's 3 smaller canes developing down there, but this one's a huge one. It's going to be bigger than the others. This plant actually blooms out of canes that it produced over a year ago, so it didn't bloom off any new canes. It's blooming off sort of a year-old cane. And before I show you my favorite bloom of the month, I'll show you these couple of spikes that are developing. But this is my Oncidium Space Race Chanel, and it's an absolutely huge spike. It's a first time bloom for me. I really underestimated how big that spike was going to grow, so I think I'm either going to have to get a bigger stake, or maybe I'll just let it grow on its own and see what happens. And next to it we have my Imposter Oncydopsis Nellie Isla, and I think we figured out that it's probably not a Nellie Isla. It might be a catatante or something related. I mean, just look at how thick these spikes are. They're absolutely massive. And if you've seen Miltoniopsis spikes, you'll know that they're not super thick like this, even though it's the Nellie Isla is an Oncydopsis, not a Miltoniopsis purely. But it's got 1, 2, 3 spikes there. And of course, everyone, last but absolutely not least is my beautiful Iwanagara apple blossom, which is in glorious full bloom at the moment with 10 beautiful flowers. I can't believe I managed to catch it in full bloom. I really thought that it was going to start losing flowers, but these oldest flowers have not faded yet. And actually, I didn't think it was that fragrant to begin with, but now that it's fully open, I think its fragrance is really starting to develop. I can't quite describe it. It smells very fresh and floral. People have described it as smelling like freesias, but I have no idea what freesias actually smell like, so I don't know if that's true or not. What I can say is that it smells very fresh and floral, a little bit like linen. Just has a real typical floral sort of fragrance with a crisp linen sort of hint in it. And I don't know how else to describe it. I'm not very good at describing fragrances to begin with, but look at these beautiful flowers. So as they age, the purple on the tips of those petals do to fade out a little bit more. You can see actually that this bottom one is the last one to open, and it's more pink than the others, sort of facing down, but can you see that? And there's hints of yellow through that petal as well, and that lip. So pretty, you guys. I'm absolutely in love with these blooms, and this plant itself has just been an absolute winner. Came to me around December last year, bare root, but all the roots were dead, so I had to cut them all off, and I potted it on top of this media, staked it down, and it grew this plump growth, a whole new root system, and it's managed to chuck out this many blooms. I'm so impressed. It's absolutely worth contacting every single nursery in Australia pretty much. And finally someone sent it to me. Alright everyone, well I hope you enjoyed this September Orchies in Bloom. I do hope I get to edit this afternoon and post it. Otherwise it will be next week and probably well into October, so I do apologize if that's the case. But yeah, this is September Orchies in Bloom, some beautiful blooms this month, and of course phal season, and those phal blooms should last to next month as well. So if I don't have a lot of new blooms, it might end up being the month after that I post another Orchies in Bloom. But please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more orchid videos. I hope you guys have a great week, and happy growing until I see you next time. Bye!